A warm welcome to Cloudy Bay and our blog on sailcloudybay.com and Instagram and Facebook of the same name. We are Glenn and Wanna. Thank you for joining our adventures, both land and sea, as we very slowly sail around the world. This episode is part 2 of our 1200-mile passage from Cayman to the Chesapeake. In the last episode, part 1, we sailed from Cayman to West Palm. We had a wonderful downwind spinnaker run from Cayman to Cuba, then lively sailing in the Gulf Stream up to Florida. In this video, we complete the passage sailing from West Palm to our summer destination, Herrington Harbour in the Chesapeake.
Arrived in Lake Worth yesterday, got the cruising permit today, and we are ready to leave already. Glenn is checking the weather forecast.
So here we are down here in Lake Worth in Florida, and we're trying to go on the Gulf Stream all the way up and around the Hatteras. The Hatteras is the really dodgy bit, so we don't want wind against current there. So it looks quite good at the moment, a good following wind for the next 1, 2, 3 days, which should get us all the way out to the Hatteras, or we bail out to Beaufort, and then the next day it all goes pear-shaped when it comes from the north. So we either get round or we end up anchoring in Beaufort. We're just trying to get ready to leave when the Florida rain comes. And when Florida rain comes, along with wind and lightning and big drops of water. It's wild. The next day, having checked in with CBP, after just 28 hours we left West Palm at 4:30 in the afternoon. We got straight into the Gulf Stream and was very quickly doing 3 to 4 knots extra speed with the stream under us on a nice broad reach. We did 80 miles in the first 8 hours, landing at midnight just southeast of Cape Canaveral.
Quick turnaround, 28 hours, leaving Lake Worth and Florida, heading for the Chesapeake.
Heading for the Chesapeake, we'll probably end up in Beaufort because I don't think we're going to get around the Hatteras, but we'll see.
And we are ready with the tent up. Had enough of rain coming into the cockpit.
Back in the Gulf Stream, 4 knots of current under us. Quite lucky because the wind is very light and coming from our stern, so we're just gently trickling along at 5 knots. The sound of thunder coming from the Florida shoreline. It's going to be another fun evening of thunder, I think. See these massive clouds building up? Don't like them. We could really do the spinnaker up. Very reluctant to while all this dark clouds around. They do spring their stuff on us very quickly. Hear that thunder? That wasn't my tummy. 10 minutes later, the wind fills into 12-13 knots. We're doing 7 and 12 across the ground. Lovely. The temperature has risen from 26.9 to almost 28, so we know we're kind of in the middle of the Gulf Stream now. 5 knots under us almost. Last little bit of light as the sun comes down below those dark clouds and shows itself again. Not bad. We've done 34 miles in 3 hours. That's honking it. Ah, yuck, we've got floppy leech syndrome. I will have new sails soon. They have been ordered. $11 at night, our first manoeuvre. We've gone from a broad reach to a very deep reach. So we've pulled out the Genoa, sailing it by the lee a bit. It's very fast like this if you get it just right. And we are doing a lovely 7.5 knots. With still 4 knots of current, so total nearly 12 knots over the ground. Eating up the miles. 70 miles in 6.5 hours. Lovely. Just gotta stay in this damn current. The water is just whipping past the boat. Actually a good wind now. 17 knots. Well, good morning, Cloudy Bay. It's Thursday morning, our first morning out of West Palm. We've done a tremendous night. We've done 150 miles since leaving 13 hours ago, averaging 11. Interestingly, the wind came right round our stern, and we're now pretty much hard on with a due easterly. And in the distance there is a mother of thunderstorms reaching probably 30,000 feet up there. It's been flashing all night at us. Thursday saw Cloudy break her 24-hour mileage record. We did 245 miles from central Georgia to South Carolina, just offshore of Charleston. We sailed beautifully during the morning, but then the wind died in the afternoon, and we ended up motoring into huge Atlantic swells that were coming in from Tropical Storm Arthur. It was really surreal. In the evening we'd had our usual dice with thunderstorms. They were coming off the Georgian coast, but this time they all missed us and left us with a nice southerly breeze thundering along on a broad reach with 14 knots going under the keel by midnight. It's 9 o'clock now. One has just got up. And we are just tinkering along. I had to motor for a little bit to get back into the Gulf Stream, so we lost it for a little bit. And now we're back in the centre with 3 knots. So doing a gentle 6 knots through the water and 6 knots of breeze, 3 knots of Gulf Stream. It's just slightly off the wind, sailing like 58, 60 degrees to the wind. The true wind's actually behind the beam. Look at the colour of that sky. Wonderful. I could just do a nice double back flip from here and end up somewhere wrapped around the keel. Maybe I won't. There's something about the curves of Cloudy's sails, rather attractive. How about that for a lovely bunch of fittings? We have the new side shade up, we have the tent up, we have the bimini up. We've got about every piece of canvas up we can get. Actually, we've got a few more down below. It's just so peaceful. Just this big lolloping swell. A gentle 7 knots wind. A ferocious 3 knot current. We are just slipping along. For the Gulf Stream I use these Neuer plots which come out every 12 hours. You can see the Gulf Stream isn't just a straight line, it comes, curves out here, disappears here, this is where we lost it last year, gets back strong again, goes weak and disappears, and then very, very strong around Hatteras. So you need to know the stream to know where to be in it. So I've plotted our preferred route, the direct black line, and then I'm going to transfer that to the plotter in a series of waypoints which we'll follow. So the green triangles are the waypoints transferred to the plotter, and if we zoom in on our position, we are tracking as close as we can to those points. And here we are right now, 6 knots through the water, 10.5 over the ground, or 10 over the ground. So we've got 3 to 3.5 knots, which is exactly what they say the maximum current should be. So we're doing 9.5 knots in 7 knots of wind on a very nice day. The black line here is our track from last year, and you can see at one point we completely lost the Gulf Stream and we ended up going 80 miles further east to try to pick it up again. So I don't want to do that again this year. Wind died, so back to motoring in glassy seas. Glassy, except, I don't know if you can see on the video, there is an enormous swell, 2 to 3 meters. It's higher than when I stand on the deck. Big distances between the swells, so you don't really feel it, you just feel yourself going up and down. I don't think I've ever quite seen it so profound on such a calm day. Some of them, like this one, makes it feel like we're going up a mountain. Whoa! I believe it's the remnants of Tropical Storm Arthur, which went up here at least 3 or 4 days ago. Down and up, and down and up. It's all the more weird because there's absolutely no wind. If it was blowing 40 knots and they had little white caps on them, you can kind of understand. Cloudy's got her side shades on, just dangling there. Kind of reminds me of one of those desert hats that has sides on it. Well, this is Cloudy's desert hat. It's been absolutely windless. No, not that windless. Absolutely windless for the last 2 hours, and it's just started to fill in the opposite direction, coming in on the starboard bow. Only 2 or 3 knots. Feels like if you painted the sea green, we could be in rolling hills that are alive. Whoa, that was a big one. And then down we go into the valley, and up the next hillside. It's only sheep over the top. Oh, no sheep. They must be a good 100 meters apart. It seems to be getting bigger and bigger. As usual, at the end of a very nice day sailing, I have a penance to play. An electric storm chasing us from Georgia. Let's hope it doesn't get us. Meanwhile, these mountains, or hills, are getting bigger and bigger. Look at the size of this one. It must be 5 meters. In the valley, and up the hill, and over the top. Sure enough, it looks like tonight's going to be party time again. And the electric storm world, big one just behind us here. I think that's going to slip across to our starboard side, but they're forming everywhere now. Oh, did you see that? Not a good sky. I do not like it. I do not like being in the Gulf Stream with conditions ominously like this. The Gulf Stream can be your friend, like it has been for the last 36 hours, or it can be your biggest nightmare. I think I should go and disconnect some aerials and put the electronics in the oven for baking in their Faraday cage. Thunderstorm tracking again. Sorry if the camera's wobbling around, but this swell is throwing the boat everywhere. This big one here came from behind us and moved through here, and I'm now tracking these smaller ones. I'll put marks on, taking bearings on them, just like any ship. Take a bearing on them and see if we're on a collision course. I think these two are going to pass ahead of us. Fun and games. Friday was a day of high drama on Cloudy Bay. It started in the early hours with us thundering along at 14 knots over the ground on a broad reach in very, very agitated seas, but manageable. At this point I had to pole out the genoa on a very rough foredeck that was bouncing all over the place, and I very nearly went over the side. Once the sails were out goose-winged, we just weren't going anywhere. The boat was just shaking all over the place in the agitated sea, so we got the hell out of the Gulf Stream and continued next to it in lesser current. Here we decided that there was no way we were going to make the Hatteras weather window now, so we went to plan B and diverted towards Beaufort. Just before midnight, with our radar off, we didn't know that it was off, we got caught unaware by a thunderstorm which hit us really hard. We managed through the thunderstorm okay, but when we came out the other side, I stupidly did an accidental gybe, and the mainsheet Traveller got smashed and went off into the sea. It took us a long time to arrest the boom that was wildly swinging around. Our third day out of West Palm, 6 o'clock at night. We're not going to make the Hatteras. We tried, but the Gulf Stream bit our pants last night. The very, very nasty sea. It's made us come in, away from the Gulf current, to get some peace and clean up, because we had a few calamities, like water through the galley window, all sorts of roughness. So we're coming into Beaufort, and we will attack the Hatteras on another day. We wouldn't have made the weather window anyway. It would have been extremely tight. And it's never a good idea to mess with the Hatteras. So we're now sailing, going due north to Beaufort. I just put the pole up, and it just seems so simple in daylight with a stable deck. Last night this deck was pitching and bucking like a bronco, and I was standing next to the mast here, and suddenly I became airborne, crashed against this shroud and fell back to the deck. Kind of lucky the shroud was there. Left me shaking a bit. The cockpit shades are doing well, especially on this low sun like this, although it's not so intense up here in North Carolina. I'm glad to get rid of that Cayman sun for a few weeks. Evidence on the back deck of the galley carpets. A wave got on the deck, completely flooded the side decks. And we had that window open to the galley, and it just flooded in. Not a very amused bunny. Mind you, she's on the floor comatose at the time. Pretty seasick for us. But we're back to champagne sailing right now. You always got to take a bit of sour with that champagne sailing. Can't have it every day, or you don't realise it's champagne sailing. And just when you think it's all over and you're home and dry, wham bam, another thunder squall hits us. This time we had the radar off and got caught with our pants down. Luckily I just put the pole out genoa away. Now the waves are starting to come. It's squalling up to 30 knots. We've got a little bit of main out and the motor on. Ooh, waves are starting to come over. Hold tight, Cloudy, we'll be there soon. Hold tight, Wanna, we'll be there soon. After our high drama evening of the accidental jibe and having to arrest the boom and get it strapped down, we came on our last little leg into Beaufort. The sea and the swell was really big, coming over from Tropical Storm Arthur, and we were rolling dramatically 25 degrees each way as we came in. It was just a horrible sail, and we were very glad to tuck in behind Cape Lookout. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, and this is us just about done with this leg of the journey. We're here coming into Beaufort Inlet, right behind Cape Lookout. We've got Beaufort over here, but we're just going to anchor in behind here tonight. We're both very tired, and cloudy too. We've anchored in Cape Lookout Inlet, or Beaufort Inlet as they call it. It's quite quiet when we came in, but it's Saturday, and now it's very busy with lots of boats. It's renowned to be the safest and nicest anchorage on the east coast of USA. See why? Surrounded by sand dunes. You've got the Atlantic crashing the other side. And clearly very popular boating destination. The beach is just lined with boats. It's almost like Puerto Rico. It's been quite a while since we've been on anchor, and even longer since we've been on anchor in water this colour. Definitely we have lost the tropical blue. The decks are all neat and tidy with ropes, which they needed to be as we came in the wild weather last night. Talking of wild weather, let's have a look at a little bit of a damage assessment. It's not good. At one point the retainer caught the edge of this solar panel. Amazingly it didn't break it, but it did rip the strip, so that'll need to be redone. And on the main sheet system, it's not a happy scene. We did an accidental gybe with just half the main out and completely smashed the track. So this little setup here is to try and restrain the boom, which was quite interesting. 10-meter boom swaying around all over the place in 15 knots of wind. We got there, and this is what's left of the main sheet Traveller as it sped across the deck, smashing its way off the end. So this is the Traveller. The only casualty on the Traveller is one of the blocks. The end of the Traveller just got knocked clean off. That looks like it will go back on again. The biggest casualty was the clutch for the main sheet, which got ripped off and smashed to smithereens, covering the deck in all sorts of debris and hundreds of these ball bearings from the Traveller. So not too bad a deal, but it looked really messy. A lot of fixing.
And very scary.
And very scary, yes. Another casualty here was the lower rail that the solar panel secures to is bent up. When I saw the rope get caught around it, the main sheet, and it got wrenched up. Luckily, amazingly, the solar panel survived. It's actually still pumping power. Our first evening in Cape Lookout Inlet. So nice, 7:30 and the sun hasn't set yet. Nice to be out of the tropics from that point of view. It's been a lovely day. It's a beautiful, cool, refreshing breeze. So nice. A lot of boats anchored here. 40 I counted. And over there we have the famous Cape Lookout Lighthouse. Maybe we'll even tootle over in a dinghy and have a look. We shall see. Beautiful evening in the northern Atlantic. Just thinking, I quite like this new main sheet arrangement. Look at that, it's a good clothesline. Keeps the whole of the back of the cockpit clear. Who needs a main sheet? Poof! Who needs sails? Well, looky here, guys and girls. Look at all these boys and girls living the American dream. Flying their Trump flags, swimming in the cold sea. There must be 1,000 boats anchored here around this whole bay. People on the beach. A lot of alcohol being consumed. That's where we came from this morning. It was getting a bit choppy over there. And in the distance there we have Cape Lookout Lighthouse with yet more hundreds of boats on that beach too.
What was the damage?
Well, this is the Traveller, and actually the only damage on the Traveller was I had to file a little bit here. Obviously got a knock so we can get the ball bearings in. We lost a whole bunch of these ball bearings, but we hope we've got enough. And I've serviced all the end fittings. Oh, and one of the pulleys got completely smashed, so we have to switch to 2 new ones. Other than that, looks like we could be a go, at least to get to Herrington anyway. This may have looked easy, all cleaned and ready for reassembly, but it took quite an effort to get all the corroded pieces apart using WD-40 and a heat gun. Even then, some of the stainless steel bolts had to be drilled out and the alloy castings retapped.
One clutch and few ball bearings missing, but we have a working car again.
Life's good. It's gonna work again. Can't sail without a mainsail, can we?
While waiting for weather window to leave Cape Lookout for Herrington,
We are varnishing the companionway, which has been bugging me ever since we bought the boat. And it's a long, intricate little job, so it needs lots of time and patience. And we've got time, and I've got patience. Other than using our time to fix things and varnish, it was also time for a least favourite job, servicing the outboard engine. No matter how much you prepare, it's never a good idea draining oil over teak decks.
5 days in Cape Lookout Inlet. Today we have sort of a weather window to go for Deltaville or even all the way to Herrington. We'll see. So we are leaving. Beautiful weather, isn't it?
After 5 days waiting on favourable winds to round the notorious Hatteras, we departed Cape Lookout Inlet late in the afternoon and again headed northeast. Once around the shoals, we had an exhilarating sail, and by midnight we were already 2/3 of the way to the Hatteras. Next leg to the Chesapeake. The first little bit's not so pleasant. We've got to go around the Cape Lookout shoals, dead into the wind and the swell, and it's a bit bouncy. No sails, just bouncing around. Hopefully when we get there we can go off the wind and be pinned down a little bit with some sails. And this is the view from outside, bouncing into the waves. You can see on our port side the Cape Lookout shoals boiling. And this is on a relatively calm day. That's the last bit of sand from Cape Lookout. We're looking quite a bit back there. 6 miles now is the lighthouse that we were next to. Not a nice motion. But we're not alone. One other crazy guy out there, a 52-foot cat. So we could have a bit of a race on our hands. I'm sure once we get around the corner on the wind on the beam, they'll be gone. A lot of little thundery squalls around today. They're not going to go away until this north wind comes, and we've got to go before the north wind. Thank goodness for that. We're off the wind and around the shoals. Beam reach. We have someone motoring next to us. I'm glad they're motoring because I wouldn't like them to actually be overtaking us without a motor. Finally the motion settled down. We had a real swimming pool around the back of the boat. We're doing a nice 8.5 knots through the water on a beam reach, a little bit too much outhaul out I'd say, or in. I'm just spilling the wind and give us lots of power. The catamaran's overtaken us, but then he's motoring. Cheating. And the sun is just setting. Certainly making some miles now. 7 hours to Hatteras at this speed. And there's no sign of the wind getting any less. Thundering along, you might say. Nothing stopping Cloudy from going home. Not even the odd wave. Okay, I'm getting sprayed now. I'm going in. Currently about halfway between Cape Lookout and Hatteras. Doing very nicely. Should be there in about 3 or 4 hours. The Hatteras, that is. Very nice sailing here. We have wind on the beam at 120. Apparent wind dead on the beam, 19-20 knots. We're cruising along at anywhere between 8 and 10 knots. Absolutely thundering like a freight train. I'll take you outside and you can see. The moon's out, but I've put the spreader lights on. Can't really see much. But you might better hear the water thundering past. Side decks are full of water. Charging along at 9 knots. We've got about 2/3 of the main out. One reef in the Genoa. 20 knots of wind on the beam. Could push it a bit harder, but no point at night. Our next 24 hours started by rounding the Hatteras in lively sea conditions, then heading north. Same as last year, as soon as we were north of the shoals, the wind died, proving again the Gulf Stream seems to have its own unique weather. Along the Kitty Hawk coast, we encountered rain and fog as moist southerly air passed over the now cooler North Atlantic water. Finally, at sunset, after 1,000 miles from Cayman, we entered the tranquil waters of the Chesapeake. It felt like coming home. Friday afternoon, coming down just past Kitty Hawk, approaching Virginia Beach. Had a lot of rain and a lot of not much wind from behind, having been around the Hatteras with a real blow. Just goose winged all the way down here, gently heading towards Chesapeake in 30 miles time. The water temperature is only 18 degrees and we've got this moist warm air coming over it. It's cleared now, but a little while ago we could only see like 100 meters in front of us. Very gentle and chilly, I'd have to say. Barely even enough wind to fill the Genoa. It's really spinnaker territory, but I can't be bothered to get it out and get it all wet. Talking of wet, I don't think there's a drop of salt left on the boat. It's all being washed off. Annoyingly, these side decks don't drain when we're on the run. Really needs another scupper further up forward. Entering the Chesapeake now on a dull, grey, damp, horrible day. It's cold, it's wet, my feet are cold. Oh Cayman, why did we ever leave you? Oh, I remember, it was damn hot and sweaty. Looks like we're going to have to motor the rest of the way. Wind is just not playing ball. Well, it may have been a horrible, dull, rainy day, but we're treated to splendid sky tonight as the sun sets across the Chesapeake Causeway. What a beautiful sky. Welcome to the Chesapeake, it's saying. For the last leg, we alternated between sailing and motoring as we proceeded north up an eerily quiet Chesapeake. The COVID-19 clearly had a different effect on the boating community here compared to the parting that we'd just witnessed in the Carolinas. We arrived to Herring Bay by 2 p.m, where we remained at anchor for a day, removing sails and starting the preparation of Cloudy for her long summer holiday ashore. Almost there now, Herrington, 40 more miles to go. Having a lovely on-wind sail as the sun rises in the Chesapeake. Just going past the river that leads up to Washington. It's a chilly breeze. Hopping along nicely at 7.5, 8 knots. No waves to stop us. All quiet back here, apart from one is snoring in the back cabin. Just kidding, she doesn't snore really. That's my job. Lovely! Lovely! Always seem to get this sort of weather as we return back to the Chesapeake. Lovely on the wind sail. Should be a nice day. From blue water sailing to brown water sailing, or like duck pond water sailing. Last 30 minutes coming into Herrington Harbour. The sun is out and we are in sail drying mode. They got so wet. Well, at least they got the salt off them. They need to be thoroughly dried. Not looking too bad actually. It's a shame it's the last time we're going to use them. And here we are coming into Herrington Harbour again. 2.5 metres for our 2.5 metre draft. Let's hope we can get past this dodgy spot. And we're through. We touched bottom once. No deer swimming across the river today. And we are going into Sea Dock. Beautiful day. Thanks for watching. This is our last video for this season.